The rain hammered against the glass doors of Luminaire, each droplet exploding like tiny fireworks against the polished surface. I pressed my palm against the cool glass, watching the street blur into watercolor streaks of red and gold from the traffic lights. My feet throbbed in these ridiculous heels, borrowed, like everything else I wore tonight, and the black dress felt too tight around my ribs, restricting each breath into shallow gasps. "Table 12 needs water," Marcus hissed as he brushed past me, his cologne sharp enough to make my eyes water. "And stop staring out the window like some lost puppy. We have actual customers." I swallowed the retort burning on my tongue. 3 months at this job, and Marcus still treated me like I'd wandered in off the street yesterday. Maybe I looked the part. My hair never quite achieved that sleek sophistication the other servers managed, always escaping its pins to curl damply against my neck. My hands were rough from years of dish soap and cheaper jobs, the kind of hands that didn't belong wrapped around crystal wine glasses worth more than my monthly rent. The restaurant hummed with quiet conversations, the clink of silverware against bone china, the whisper of expensive fabric as women shifted in their seats. Everything here cost more than I could fathom. The butter probably cost more than my groceries for a week. I'd learned to move through this world like a ghost, invisible unless someone needed their glass refilled or their plate cleared away. I grabbed the water pitcher, its weight familiar in my aching hands, and wove between tables toward number 12. The couple there barely glanced at me as I poured, too engrossed in their own conversation about summer homes in the Hamptons. I might as well have been furniture. The front door opened, bringing with it a gust of wind that sent goosebumps racing up my bare arms. I turned, pitcher still in hand, and felt the air shift. He entered like he owned not just the restaurant, but the entire city block. Water dripped from his dark hair, running down a face that could have been carved from marble, all sharp angles and dangerous beauty. His suit was black, perfectly tailored to shoulders that seemed too broad for the doorway, but it wasn't his appearance that made my breath catch. It was the way everyone else in the room subtly stiffened, the way conversations died just a fraction before resuming at a lower volume. 2 men flanked him, built like walls in matching dark suits, their eyes constantly scanning the room. The host, Pierre, who never smiled at staff, practically bowed as he approached. I should have looked away, should have continued with my work, invisible as always. But something held me frozen as those eyes, dark, fathomless, dangerous, swept across the restaurant and landed on me. The pitcher slipped. I lunged for it, catching it before it crashed, but water sloshed over the rim, splashing across my hands and onto the floor. Ice cubes skittered across the polished hardwood like scattered diamonds. My heart hammered against my ribs as I crouched, trying to gather the ice with trembling fingers. "I'm so sorry," I whispered to the couple at table 12, though they'd already turned away in annoyance. Heat crawled up my neck, burning my cheeks. Of course I'd make a scene the one night someone like him walked in. I felt him before I saw him. The air grew heavier, charged with something electric that made the fine hairs on my arms stand at attention. A shadow fell across me, and I looked up from my crouch to find him standing there, close enough that I could smell him, sandalwood, and something darker, like smoke and expensive whiskey. "Careful," he said, his voice low, textured like velvet over gravel. He extended a hand. I stared at it for a heartbeat too long. His fingers were long, elegant, but I noticed the scars across his knuckles, faint white lines that spoke of violence. A thick silver ring caught the light, carved with symbols I didn't recognize. "I'm fine," I managed, my voice barely above a whisper. I ignored his hand and pushed myself up, clutching the pitcher against my chest like a shield. "Thank you." His eyes narrowed slightly, studying me with an intensity that made me feel stripped bare. This close, I could see flecks of amber in the darkness of his irises, could see the way his jaw tightened as his gaze traveled from my face down to my hands, still trembling, and back up again. "You're shaking," he observed. Not a question, but a statement. "It's cold," I lied. The restaurant was perfectly climate-controlled. One corner of his mouth lifted, not quite a smile, but something more dangerous. "Is it?" Pierre appeared at his elbow, wringing his hands. "Mr. Constantine, your table is ready. The private room, as requested." Constantine. The name echoed in my head, familiar somehow, though I couldn't place why. He didn't move, still watching me with that unnerving focus. What's your name? I shouldn't tell him. Every instinct screamed at me to lie, to remain invisible, to not let this man, whoever he was, see me, but my mouth betrayed me. Elena, I whispered. Elena. He repeated it slowly, tasting each syllable like wine. Beautiful name for a beautiful girl who jumps at shadows. Before I could respond, Marcus materialized, his face flushed with either embarrassment or anger. Mr. Constantine, I apologize for the disturbance. Elena, get back to work. Now, I nodded, stepping back. But Constantine's hand shot out, fingers wrapping around my wrist, not hard. His touch was surprisingly gentle, but firm enough to stop me. Heat radiated from his palm, searing through my skin. She stays, Constantine said quietly, his eyes never leaving mine. I want her serving my table tonight. Marcus sputtered. Sir, Elena is still in training. Perhaps one of our more experienced. I don't recall asking for suggestions. Constantine's voice remained soft, almost pleasant. But something in it made Marcus take an involuntary step backward. Elena will serve my table, unless there's a problem? No, sir. No problem at all. Marcus shot me a look that promised a lecture later. Elena, attend to Mr. Constantine's party, private room 3. Constantine finally released my wrist, and I resisted the urge to rub the spot where his fingers had been. I could still feel the imprint of his touch, burning like a brand. Come, he said, turning toward the back of the restaurant. His guards fell into step behind him, boxing me in. I had no choice but to follow, my heels clicking against the floor like a countdown. The private room was all dark wood and leather, a fireplace crackling in the corner despite the warm evening. A single table sat in the center, set for 4. Constantine gestured for me to enter first, and I felt his presence behind me, solid and overwhelming. Just you tonight, sir? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady as I moved to pour water into the glasses. For now. He shrugged off his jacket, revealing a white shirt that clung to his frame. When he rolled up his sleeves, I caught glimpses of more scars, these ones longer, angrier. Tell me, Elena, how long have you worked here? 3 months. I set down the water pitcher, pulling out my notepad. Can I start you with something to drink? You're nervous. Again, not a question. My fingers tightened around the notepad. I'm fine, sir. Dmitri, he said to one of his guards, wait outside. Both of you. The men exchanged glances but obeyed without argument, closing the door behind them with a soft click. And then we were alone. The silence stretched between us, heavy and suffocating. Constantine settled into his chair, leaning back with predatory grace, and gestured to the seat across from him. Sit. I can't, I'm working. Sit, Elena. Softer this time, but somehow more commanding. My legs obeyed before my brain could protest, and I found myself perched on the edge of the leather chair, every muscle tense. This was wrong. Everything about this situation screamed danger, yet I couldn't make myself leave. He studied me in the firelight, shadows playing across his features. You're afraid of me. Should I be? That almost smile again. Most people are. I don't know who you are, I admitted, though some part of me suspected I didn't want to know. Good. He leaned forward, elbows on the table, close enough that I could see the faint stubble along his jaw, could smell that intoxicating scent of sandalwood and danger. Keep it that way. But understand this. I'm not most people you serve, and you... He paused, his gaze traveling over my face like a physical touch. You're not like the others out there. Are you? I'm just a server. You're lying. He said it matter-of-factly, without accusation. You don't belong in a place like this. Your hands... He reached across the table, and I should have pulled away, should have stood up and walked out, but I sat frozen as his fingers traced the calluses on my palm. These hands have worked hard, honest work. Not serving overpriced wine to people who wouldn't notice if it was vinegar. Heat flooded through me at his touch, and I yanked my hand back. What do you want? Right now? His eyes darkened, and something in them made my pulse race. I want you to stop trembling like I'm going to hurt you. I want you to look at me without that fear in your eyes. He stopped himself, jaw clenching. I want my dinner. Can you manage that, Elena? I nodded, not trusting my voice, and stood on shaking legs. As I moved toward the door, his voice stopped me. And Elena? I turned back. He was standing now too, outlined by the firelight, looking every inch the dangerous predator I'd sensed the moment he walked in. If you provoke me like that again, looking at me with those eyes, trembling under my touch, I won't be responsible for what happens next. Understood? I fled. My heart didn't stop racing until I reached the kitchen, pressing my back against the cool wall, trying to catch my breath. What had just happened? Who was he? And why did every cell in my body scream at me to run while simultaneously pulling me back toward that private room? Elena! Marcus snapped his fingers in front of my face. His order? Right. The order. I'd forgotten to take his order. I'll go back, I said, straightening my dress with trembling hands. No need. Marcus thrust a piece of paper at me. He already called it in. Apparently he has your number memorized now. His expression was a mixture of confusion and suspicion. What did you do in there? Nothing, I whispered, staring at the paper. Written in sharp, decisive handwriting was not just a dinner order, but a phone number, and beneath it, 2 words that made my blood run cold and hot all at once. Call me. K. I crumpled the paper in my fist, my mind spinning. This was insane. I couldn't call him. Wouldn't call him. Whatever game he was playing, I wanted no part of it. But as I prepared his dinner, some ridiculously expensive cut of steak that cost more than I made in a week, I couldn't stop my fingers from smoothing out that crumpled paper. Couldn't stop myself from memorizing those digits. Couldn't stop wondering what would happen if I did call. When I brought his meal to the private room, flanked by his silent guards, he was on the phone, speaking in a language I didn't recognize. Russian, maybe? His tone was harsh, commanding. Nothing like the velvet-soft voice he'd used with me. He ended the call as I entered, his expression smoothing into something almost pleasant. Almost. Your steak, sir, I said, setting the plate before him with hands that were almost steady now. Stay while I eat. I have other tables. They can wait. He cut into the meat, and I watched, mesmerized despite myself, as he brought the fork to his lips. Sit, Elena, please. That please undid me. I sat. We didn't speak as he ate, but the silence was different now, less suffocating, more anticipatory. I watched him in the flickering firelight, cataloging details. The way his fingers gripped the knife, the flex of muscle in his forearm, the occasional glance he'd cast my way through dark lashes. You didn't call me a liar, I said suddenly, the words escaping before I could stop them. He paused, fork halfway to his mouth. About what? When I said I was just a server, you said I was lying, but you didn't call me a liar. There's a difference. That dangerous smile bloomed fully this time, transforming his face from merely handsome to absolutely devastating. Smart girl. There is a difference. He set down his silverware, giving me his full attention. Tell me the truth then. What are you really, Elena? Broke, I answered honestly. Desperate, trying to survive in a city that eats people like me for breakfast. People like you. People with nothing. His expression darkened. You think you have nothing? I know I have nothing. He was moving before I could blink, coming around the table, pulling me to my feet. His hands gripped my shoulders, not gentle now but firm, demanding. You have yourself, your pride, your strength. I see it in you, even if you don't. His thumbs traced circles against my collarbone through the thin fabric of my dress, and I shivered. Don't ever say you're nothing again. Do you understand me? I should have been terrified, should have pushed him away, but something in his fierce intensity, in the way he looked at me like I mattered, like I was more than invisible, made me nod. Say it, he commanded. I understand. Good. But he didn't release me. If anything, his grip tightened, and his eyes dropped to my lips. You have no idea what you do to me, do you? Walking around, thinking you're invisible, when you're the only thing I've seen since I walked through that door. Mr. Konstantin. Alexei, he corrected, his voice rough. My name is Alexei. Alexei, I breathed, and watched his eyes darken at the sound of his name on my lips. I need to go. Whatever this is, it can't happen. Why not? Because you're... I trailed off, not even knowing how to finish that sentence. Because you're dangerous? Because you're clearly someone powerful, and I'm nobody? Because every instinct tells me you'll destroy me? Because I'm what, Elena? His hand came up, fingers tangling in my hair, forcing me to look at him. Say it. Because you scare me, I whispered truthfully. Something flickered in his eyes. Satisfaction? Regret? Good. You should be scared. Because I'm not a good man, Elena. I'm not the kind of man girls like you should talk to, let alone let touch them. His thumb brushed across my lower lip and I gasped. But I'm also not a man who walks away from what he wants. And I want you. The door burst open. We sprang apart as Marcus entered, his face pale. Mr. Konstantin, there's been a situation in the main dining room. The police are here. Alexei's entire demeanor shifted instantly. The man who'd been looking at me with heat and hunger became cold, calculating, dangerous. He straightened his cuffs, his expression neutral. What kind of situation? A customer is claiming their wallet was stolen. They're insisting on searching the staff. My blood turned to ice. No. I'd taken nothing, touched nothing except what I was supposed to. But I knew how this worked. When something went missing, they always blamed the newest server, the one who didn't belong, the one who was different. Alexei's eyes cut to me, and I saw the question there. Before he could ask, I shook my head frantically. I didn't take anything, I whispered. I swear. He stared at me for a long moment, and I had no idea what he saw. Then he nodded once, decisive. Dmitri, he called, and one of his guards appeared instantly. Elena stays with you. No one touches her. No one questions her. Am I clear? Crystal, boss? Wait, I protested as Dmitri's hand landed on my shoulder, gentle but immovable. You can't just... I need to clear my name. I need to... Alexei was in front of me again, his hands cupping my face, forcing me to focus on him instead of the panic clawing up my throat. Trust me, he said, his voice low and intense. For once in your life, Elena, trust someone. Stay here. Let me handle this. And then he was gone, striding out of the room with Marcus scurrying behind him, leaving me alone with Dmitri and the terrible certainty that my life had just irrevocably changed. I had no idea how right I was. The next morning arrived with pale sunlight filtering through my apartment's single grimy window, doing little to brighten the peeling wallpaper or the water stain on the ceiling that looked like a spreading bruise. I lay in my narrow bed, staring at that stain, replaying the previous night frame by frame like a film I couldn't stop watching. After Alexei had left me with Dmitri, I'd waited for what felt like hours, but was probably only 20 minutes. The sounds from the main dining room had been muffled. Raised voices, Marcus's placating tone, the crackle of police radios. My hands had twisted in my lap until my knuckles went white, my mind spinning through worst-case scenarios. Arrested. Fired. Blacklisted from every decent restaurant in the city. Then Alexei had returned, his expression unreadable, and simply said, "It's handled. You can go home." "What do you mean handled?" I'd asked, standing on shaky legs. "The wallet was found. Misplaced, not stolen." The customer apologized. His eyes had held mine, dark and fathomless. "You're safe, Elena. Go home. Rest." I should have questioned it. The convenient timing, the sudden resolution, the way everyone had simply accepted his word as law. But exhaustion and relief had flooded through me, and I'd grabbed my coat and fled into the rainy night before anyone could change their minds. Now, in the harsh light of day, questions multiplied like bacteria. How had he fixed it so quickly? Why had he bothered? And why couldn't I stop thinking about the way his hands had felt on my face, the heat in his eyes, the dangerous promise in his voice? "I want you." My phone buzzed on the milk crate I used as a nightstand. Unknown number. My finger hovered over the screen. I knew. Somehow, I just knew who it was before I even opened the message. "Good morning, Elena. I trust you slept well," and my heart hammered against my ribs. How did he get my number? I hadn't given it to him, but even as I wondered, I knew the answer. A man like Alexei Konstantin could get anything he wanted. I shouldn't respond. Should delete the message, block the number, pretend last night never happened. Instead, I typed, "How did you get this number?" The response came immediately. "Does it matter?" "Yes. I wanted to make sure you were all right. That matters more." I stared at those words, my throat tight. When was the last time anyone had checked on me? Cared whether I was all right? "I'm fine. Thank you for last night." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then, "Have dinner with me tonight." My fingers trembled. "I can't." "Why not?" "Because you're dangerous, because I don't know who you are, because the way you look at me makes me feel like I'm standing at the edge of a cliff, and part of me wants to jump." "I work tonight," I typed instead. "Call in sick. I can't afford to." Another pause, longer this time. Then, "How much do you make in a night?" Heat flooded my cheeks. "That's none of your business. Everything about you is my business now, Elena. Answer the question." The presumption should have angered me, should have made me block his number and throw my phone across the room. Instead, something dark and unfamiliar uncurled in my stomach. Not fear exactly, but something close to it. Anticipation. "Maybe $200 on a good night," I admitted. "Why?" "I'll give you $2,000 to have dinner with me instead." I sat up so fast my head spun. $2,000. That was my rent for 3 months. Groceries. The electric bill I'd been dreading. The dentist appointment I'd been putting off because I couldn't afford it. "You can't be serious. I don't joke about money, Elena, or about what I want. Dinner. Tonight. Say yes." My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Every logical part of my brain screamed no. This was insane. Dangerous. Men didn't throw money at women for dinner unless they expected something in return, and I wasn't that kind of girl. I couldn't be. But rent was due in 5 days, and I was $400 short. "Just dinner?" I typed. "Just dinner. I give you my word. The word of a stranger. Then get to know me. That's what dinner is for." I closed my eyes, taking a shaky breath. This was a mistake. I knew it in my bones, but desperation made people do stupid things, and I was nothing if not desperate. "Where and when?" His response was immediate. "I'll send a car for you at 7. Wear something comfortable." "I don't have anything nice enough for wherever you're taking me." "Then don't wear anything nice." "I don't care about your clothes, Elena. I care about you." I didn't know how to respond to that, so I didn't. I set the phone down with trembling hands and fell back against my pillow, staring at that water stain and wondering what the hell I'd just agreed to. At 6:45 p.m., I stood in front of my closet, if you could call the narrow alcove with a tension rod a closet, trying to figure out what something comfortable meant when you owned exactly 3 outfits that weren't work clothes or pajamas. I'd settled on jeans that were only slightly worn at the knees and a soft green sweater that my mother had sent me 2 Christmases ago. It was the nicest thing I owned that didn't smell like the restaurant. My hair fell in damp waves around my shoulders. I'd washed it 3 times, trying to get the smell of kitchen grease out. And I'd applied the bare minimum of makeup, mascara, lip gloss. Nothing that would make me look like I was trying too hard. My phone buzzed. Downstairs. I grabbed my jacket, a threadbare thing that had seen better years, and headed down the 4 flights of stairs, my heart racing faster with each step. What was I doing? This was insane. I should turn around, text him that I couldn't make it, lock myself in my apartment and forget any of this ever happened, but I kept walking. The black car waiting at the curb wasn't just nice, it was obscene. A Mercedes, maybe. I didn't know cars, but I knew money when I saw it. The windows were tinted so dark I couldn't see inside, and for a moment, panic clawed at my throat. Then the back door opened, and Alexei stepped out. He looked different in daylight, or what passed for daylight in the city's perpetual dusk. Still devastatingly handsome, still radiating that aura of danger, but somehow more real. He wore dark jeans and a black sweater, the casual clothes doing nothing to diminish the power that seemed to emanate from him like heat. "Elena," he said. My name a caress on his lips. His eyes traveled over me, and I fought the urge to cross my arms over my chest. You look beautiful. I look like I always look, I said, hating how my voice wavered. Exactly. He extended his hand. Come. I stared at that outstretched hand. Those scarred knuckles, that silver ring catching the streetlight. Taking it felt like signing a contract I hadn't read, but I took it anyway, letting him help me into the car. The interior was all black leather and polished wood, smelling of expensive cologne and something else. Gun oil? I pushed the thought away as Alexei slid in beside me, close enough that his thigh pressed against mine. Dmitri was in the driver's seat, another guard I didn't recognize in the passenger seat. Where are we going? I asked, as the car pulled smoothly into traffic. You'll see. Alexei's hand rested on the seat between us, close enough to touch but not quite touching. Are you hungry? Starving, I admitted. I hadn't eaten all day, too nervous. Good, I know a place. He glanced at me, and something in his expression softened. You can relax, Elena. I meant what I said. Just dinner. Why? The question burst out before I could stop it. Why me? You could have anyone. Why throw money at a waitress for dinner? His jaw tightened. You think I'm buying you? Aren't you? No. He turned to face me fully, and the intensity in his eyes stole my breath. I'm ensuring you don't have to worry about rent or bills or whether you can afford to eat while you get to know me. There's a difference. How do you know about my rent? I make it my business to know things about people who interest me. That's creepy. That's practical. He didn't look away, didn't apologize. I'm not a good man, Elena. I told you that. But I'm honest about what I want, and I take care of what's mine. I'm not yours. Not yet. The certainty in those two words sent shivers down my spine. I should have been terrified. Should have demanded he stop the car and let me out. Instead, I found myself asking, What do you do, Alexei? For work? His smile was sharp as a knife. Import and export. Of what? Various commodities. That's not an answer. It's the only answer you're getting tonight. He reached over and his fingers brushed a strand of hair from my face, the touch sending electricity through my skin. Some things are better left unknown, Elena. For your own safety. You're saying your job is dangerous. I'm saying ignorance is sometimes a blessing. His hand dropped to capture mine, his thumb tracing circles on my palm. But I promise you this, I will never let that danger touch you. Never. The possessiveness in his voice should have alarmed me. Instead, it ignited something warm and dangerous low in my belly. The car stopped outside a small Italian restaurant tucked between a dry cleaner and a bookshop. Nothing fancy. Nothing that screamed money. I looked at Alexei in confusion. You said you were starving, he said, helping me out of the car. The best pasta in the city is made here by a woman named Rosa. She's been cooking for 50 years, and she doesn't give a damn about Michelin stars or white tablecloths. Just good food. I didn't know what surprised me more, that he'd brought me somewhere normal, or that he seemed to genuinely care about whether I'd enjoy it. Rosa turned out to be exactly as advertised, a tiny Italian woman with steel-gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. She took one look at Alexei and threw her hands up, launching into rapid Italian that I couldn't follow. But her tone was affectionate, scolding, like a mother greeting a wayward son. Alexei responded in flawless Italian, gesturing to me. Rosa's sharp eyes swung my way, assessing me in a single glance. Then she smiled, warm and genuine, and said something that made Alexei's jaw tighten. What did she say? I asked as Rosa bustled away. That I better not break your heart, or she'll break my legs. I laughed before I could stop myself. She threatens you? Rosa's one of the few people who can. He pulled out a chair for me at a small table in the corner, away from the other diners. I've known her since I was 16. She fed me when I had nothing. This glimpse of his past, of a time when he'd had nothing like me, made him seem suddenly more human, less untouchable. What happened? I asked as he sat across from me. How did you go from nothing to... I gestured vaguely at his expensive watch, the car outside. Hard work. Harder choices. His expression darkened, and a willingness to do what others wouldn't. That sounds ominous. It should. He leaned back, studying me. Your turn. How does a girl like you end up serving tables at Luminaire? A girl like me? Smart. Strong, clearly capable of more. I twisted my napkin in my lap. Student loans, medical bills, life. I paused, then added quietly. My mom got sick 2 years ago. Cancer. The treatments cost everything we had and then some. She's better now, but the debt... I trailed off, not wanting to see pity in his eyes. But when I looked up, there was no pity, only understanding. Where is she now? He asked gently. Back in Ohio. Small town. She wanted me to come home after graduation. But there's nothing there. No jobs, no future. So I came here thinking I could make it work. I laughed bitterly. Turns out the city doesn't care how hard you work. It just keeps taking. Alexei's hand shot across the table, capturing mine. It won't take from you anymore. Not while I'm here. You can't promise that. Watch me. Rosa returned with wine and bread, breaking the intensity of the moment. As she poured, chattering in Italian, I tried to calm my racing heart. Everything about this felt surreal. Sitting in this cozy restaurant with a man who looked at me like I was something precious, something worth protecting. The food came in waves, pasta that melted on my tongue, chicken that fell off the bone, tiramisu that tasted like heaven. Alexei watched me eat with obvious satisfaction, barely touching his own plate. You're not hungry? I asked between bites. I'm enjoying watching you enjoy it more. He sipped his wine. You eat like you're afraid it'll disappear. Because food did disappear when you grew up poor. You learned to eat fast, to take what you could while it was there. Tell me something real, I said suddenly. Not about work or money, something true. He considered this, his fingers drumming against his wine glass. I haven't brought anyone here in 5 years. Not business associates, not anyone. Why me? Because everyone else wants something from me. Money, power, connections. You just want to survive. He leaned forward. Do you know how rare that is? How fucking refreshing it is to talk to someone who doesn't have an agenda? Maybe I do have an agenda. Maybe I'm just better at hiding it. You're not. He said it with such certainty. You're terrible at lying, Elena. Your face gives you away every time. Heat flooded my cheeks. That's not true. Prove it. Tell me you don't feel this thing between us. Tell me you don't think about last night. Tell me. His voice dropped lower, more dangerous. Tell me you don't wonder what it would feel like if I kissed you right now. My breath caught. Alexei, say it. Tell me I'm wrong, and I'll take you home. No money, no expectations, just tell me I'm wrong about what I see in your eyes. I couldn't. God help me. I couldn't form the words because he wasn't wrong. I did think about last night, did feel this electric pull toward him. Did wonder, constantly, insistently, what his lips would taste like, how his hands would feel on my skin without barriers between us. I can't, I whispered. Victory flashed in his eyes, followed quickly by something darker, hungrier. Then don't lie to me again. Not about this. Rosa appeared with the check, and Alexei handed her cash without looking at it. Far more than the meal cost, I was certain. She patted his cheek affectionately and said something in Italian that made him smile, a real smile that transformed his face into something almost gentle. Outside, the night had turned cold, mist hanging in the air like suspended breath. Alexei draped his jacket over my shoulders without asking, the weight of it warm and heavy and smelling like him. Thank you, I said as we walked to the car. For dinner. For everything. He stopped, turning me to face him. His hands framed my face, and in the glow of the streetlight, I could see every detail, the faint scar above his eyebrow, the shadow of stubble on his jaw, the way his pupils dilated as he looked at me. Elena, he said. My name a prayer, or a curse, I couldn't tell which. If you provoke me like that again, looking at me with those eyes full of want, admitting you can't stop thinking about me, I won't be responsible for what happens next. Do you understand? I should have stepped back, should have put distance between us. Instead, I heard myself whisper, "What if I want to provoke you?" His control snapped. He kissed me like a man starving, his mouth claiming mine with a hunger that stole my breath and my sense and any remaining rationality I possessed. His hands tangled in my hair, angling my head to deepen the kiss, and I melted against him, my fingers clutching his sweater like it was the only thing keeping me upright. He tasted like wine and danger, and promises I shouldn't believe. His tongue swept against mine, demanding, possessive, and I gave him everything, drowning in sensation. When he finally pulled back, we were both breathing hard, and his eyes had gone nearly black. "Get in the car," he said, his voice rough. "Now, before I forget we're in public." I obeyed on shaking legs, sliding into the back seat. He followed, slamming the door behind him. And before I could catch my breath, he was kissing me again, harder this time, more desperate. His hands roamed over my sweater, my waist, pulling me closer until I was practically in his lap. "Alexei," I gasped between kisses. "We can't." "We can." He bit my lower lip gently, sending sparks of pleasure pain through me. "Say stop, and I will. Say you don't want this, and I'll take you home right now. But don't lie to me, Elena. Not about this." I didn't say stop. I kissed him back instead, pouring every confused feeling, every desperate want, every terrified hope into it. His groan vibrated against my lips, and his hands gripped my hips almost bruisingly. Then his phone rang. He ignored it, his mouth moving to my neck, teeth grazing the sensitive skin there. But the phone kept ringing, insistent, demanding. With a curse in Russian, he pulled back, his chest heaving. "I have to take this." "Okay," I breathed, trying to piece together my scattered thoughts. He answered in Russian, his tone sharp, all business. I watched his expression change from frustrated to cold to absolutely murderous. When he hung up, the man looking at me was different from the one who'd been kissing me moments before. Harder, dangerous, utterly in control. "I need to handle something," he said, his voice flat. "Dmitri will take you home." "What's wrong?" "Nothing you need to worry about," but his jaw was clenched, and I could see the violence simmering beneath his skin. "Stay inside tonight. Lock your door. Don't open it for anyone." Fear spiked through me. "Alexei, you're scaring me." He cupped my face, forcing me to meet his eyes. "Good. Be scared, be careful, and trust that I will handle this." He kissed me once more, hard and fast. "I'll see you tomorrow." Then he was gone, striding into the night with his guards flanking him, leaving me alone in the car with Dmitri and a growing sense of dread. As we drove through the city streets, I caught Dmitri's eyes in the rearview mirror. "Is he in danger?" I asked quietly. Dmitri's expression didn't change. "Boss can handle himself, miss. You just do what he said. Lock your door. Stay inside." "That's not an answer. It's the only answer I can give you." When we reached my building, Dmitri walked me to my door despite my protests, his eyes scanning every shadow. "Lock it," he reminded me. "And if anything feels wrong, you call this number." He handed me a card with a phone number scrawled on it. "Someone will answer. Always." I locked myself inside and leaned against the door, my lips still swollen from Alexei's kisses, my heart still racing. I touched my fingers to my mouth, remembering the taste of him, the feel of his hands on my body. What had I gotten myself into? My phone buzzed. A text from Alexei. "Sleep well, Elena. Dream of me." And God help me, I knew I would. 3 days passed without a word from Alexei. 3 days of checking my phone obsessively, jumping every time it buzzed, only to find spam messages or shift notifications from the restaurant. 3 days of lying awake at night, replaying that kiss in the back of the car, the way his hands had felt on my body, the dark promise in his eyes before that phone call had shattered everything. 3 days of wondering if I'd imagined the whole thing. I went to work at Luminaire with my stomach in knots, half expecting him to walk through that door again. But he never did. Marcus treated me with wary suspicion, as if I'd somehow contaminated the restaurant by association. The other servers whispered when they thought I couldn't hear, speculation running wild about who the mysterious man had been and what he'd wanted with me. I said nothing. What could I say? I didn't even know what he was to me. A stranger who'd bought me dinner? A dangerous man who'd kissed me senseless and then vanished? Someone who'd told me to lock my door and stay safe without explaining why? On the fourth morning, I woke to pounding on my door. My heart leapt into my throat. I grabbed the baseball bat I kept beside my bed, a relic from my attempt to feel safe in this city, and crept to the door, peering through the peephole. Dimitri stood in the hallway, his massive frame barely contained by the fisheye lens. I opened the door a crack, keeping the chain engaged. "What do you want?" "Boss wants to see you." His tone was neutral, professional. "Tell your boss he has my number. He can call me himself." Something that might have been amusement flickered in Dimitri's eyes. "Boss is in the hospital, miss. He's asking for you." The bat clattered from my nerveless fingers. "What happened?" "Can't discuss it here. You coming or not?" I should have said no. Should have closed the door and pretended this whole thing had never happened. But the image of Alexei hurt, bleeding, calling for me. It overrode every rational thought in my head. "Give me 5 minutes," I said, already moving to grab clothes. The hospital was private, the kind you only got into with serious money or serious connections. Dimitri led me through sterile white corridors, past nurses who looked away when they saw him, to a wing that seemed separate from the rest of the building. Guards stood at intervals along the hallway, their eyes tracking our movement with professional detachment. My heart hammered against my ribs. What kind of man needed armed guards in a hospital? Dimitri stopped outside a door at the end of the hall. "He's in there. Try not to upset him. Doctors say he needs rest." "What happened to him?" I demanded, my voice shaking. "Ask him yourself." Dimitri opened the door and gestured me inside. The room was nicer than any hospital room I'd ever seen, more like a hotel suite with warm lighting and actual furniture instead of plastic chairs. But my eyes went immediately to the bed, where Alexei sat propped against pillows, his torso wrapped in bandages visible beneath the open collar of his hospital gown. His eyes met mine, and something in them made my breath catch. Relief, hunger, and something darker I couldn't name. "Elena," he said, my name rough on his lips. "You came. Dimitri said you were hurt." I moved closer, my hands twisting together. "What happened?" "Business disagreement." He said it casually, like getting injured was an occupational hazard. "Nothing to worry about. You're in the hospital with guards outside your door. That seems like something to worry about." I stopped at the edge of his bed, close enough to see the pain lines around his eyes, the pallor beneath his olive skin. "Tell me the truth." His jaw tightened. "Someone tried to kill me. They failed. End of story." The casual way he said it, like attempted murder was just another Tuesday, made my knees weak. I sank into the chair beside his bed before they could give out entirely. "Why?" I whispered. "Because of what I do, what I am." He reached for my hand, and I let him take it, his fingers warm and alive around mine. "I told you I wasn't a good man, Elena." "Are you—" I couldn't even form the question. "Are you some kind of criminal?" "That depends on your definition of criminal." His thumb traced circles on my palm, the gesture at odds with the gravity of our conversation. "I operate outside the law, yes. I control territory, businesses, people. I make decisions that affect lives. And sometimes people don't like those decisions." "You're in the Mafia." I said it flatly, needing to hear it confirmed. "The Bratva, technically. Russian organized crime." He watched my face carefully, waiting for my reaction. "Does that change things between us?" "It should have. God, it absolutely should have. Normal people didn't date mafia bosses. Normal people ran when they found out someone was involved in organized crime, but I wasn't running. I was sitting here holding his hand, my heart breaking at the thought of him hurt, nearly killed. "I don't know," I admitted honestly. "I don't know what we even are, Alexei. You kissed me once and then disappeared for 3 days. I was handling the situation. Making sure the people who tried to hurt me understood what happens when you come after what's mine." His eyes darkened. "And make no mistake, Elena, you are mine. Have been since the moment you spilled ice at my feet and looked at me with those frightened eyes. You can't just claim people. I can. I do. And I'm claiming you." He tugged on my hand, pulling me closer. Tell me you don't feel it. Tell me these past 3 days haven't been torture, wondering if you'd ever see me again. They have been, I whispered, hating how easily he read me. But that doesn't mean... It means everything. He sat up straighter, wincing at the movement. I've built an empire, Elena. I've killed men, destroyed lives, done things that would make you run screaming if you knew the details. But none of it, has ever felt as important as making sure you're safe. As seeing you walk through that door. This is insane. We barely know each other. Then get to know me. Stay. He squeezed my hand. I'm going to be here for a few more days. Stay with me. Talk to me. Let me show you who I really am. I have to work. I'll pay whatever you would have made, triple it. He saw my expression and added, This isn't about money, Elena. I don't give a fuck about the money. I need you here. Please. That please undid me, just like it had before. This powerful, dangerous man asking. Not demanding, but asking. For my company. Okay. I heard myself say, I'll stay. The hours blurred together in that hospital room. Alexei slept fitfully, his body fighting infection and pain, while I sat in the chair beside his bed, watching the rise and fall of his chest beneath those bandages. Dmitri brought me food, good food, not hospital cafeteria fare, and coffee that actually tasted like coffee instead of battery acid. When Alexei was awake, we talked. He told me about growing up in Moscow, about coming to America at 16 with nothing but the clothes on his back and a reputation for violence, about building his organization from the ground up, earning respect and fear in equal measure. I told him about Ohio, about watching my mother waste away from cancer while medical bills piled up like snow in winter. About coming to New York with dreams of making something of myself, only to discover the city didn't care about dreams unless you had money to back them up. Why didn't you ask your family for help? He asked during one of these conversations, his fingers playing absently with mine. My dad left when I was 8. Mom's family disowned her for marrying him. He was Mexican. They were white and racist. I shrugged. The old pain familiar and dull. It's just been me and her. And now it's just me. You're not alone anymore. He said it with such conviction, such certainty, that I almost believed him. On the second day, while Alexei was sleeping, a woman arrived. She was beautiful in that sharp, expensive way. Tailored suit, designer heels, hair pulled back in a sleek chignon. She looked at me like I was gum on her shoe. Who are you? She demanded in accented English. Elena, I'm a friend. Her laugh was brittle. A friend, of course. She moved to Alexei's bedside, and I saw something in her eyes. Possession, jealousy, rage. I am Katya, Alexei's fiancée. The word hit me like a physical blow. Fiancé. He was engaged. All those pretty words, those heated kisses, that claim of ownership, and he had a fiancée. I didn't know, I said, standing on shaking legs. He never mentioned. Of course he didn't. Men like Alexei don't mention inconvenient truths to their whores. The slap of that word made me flinch. I'm not... No, Katya's smile was vicious. Then why are you here? What exactly do you think you are to him? Katya. Alexei's voice cut through the tension, rough with sleep and pain. Get out, Alexei, darling. I said get out. Now. He sat up, ignoring the way the movement made him pale. You have no business being here. I have every business. Our families have an arrangement I never agreed to. His eyes were cold, harder than I'd ever seen them. You're nothing to me, Katya. You never have been. So take your venomous tongue and your delusions and leave before I have Dmitri remove you. Katya's face flushed red, but she held her ground. You think you can just discard me? My family won't stand for this insult. Your family will do exactly what I tell them to do, or they'll find themselves without territory or protection. He leaned forward, and even injured. Even in a hospital gown, he radiated menace. You want to test me on this? Go ahead. See what happens. She left, but not before shooting me a look that promised retribution. The silence after her departure was deafening. I stood frozen, trying to process what had just happened, what I'd just learned. Elena. Is it true? I interrupted. Are you engaged to her? It's complicated. That's not an answer. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. Our families arranged a marriage when we were children. Political alliance, combining territories. I never wanted it, never agreed to it. But Katya and her father have been pushing for it for years, and you never thought to mention this. I didn't think it mattered. I was going to end it anyway. When? Before or after you claimed me as yours? Anger burned through my shock, hot and clarifying. You don't get to do this, Alexei. You don't get to make me feel things, make me care. When you're engaged to someone else. I'm not engaged to her. Not in any way that matters. Apparently, it matters to her family. And to her. I grabbed my jacket. I need to go. Elena, wait. He tried to stand, and I saw him go white with pain. Don't. I held up a hand, tears burning my eyes. Just don't. You want honesty? Here's some honesty. I can't do this. I can't be the other woman. Can't be part of whatever game you're playing with her family. I deserve better than that. You do. You deserve everything. He was breathing hard, his hand pressed to his bandaged ribs. Which is why I'm ending it with Katya, why I'm willing to risk war with her family to be with you. You don't even know me. I know enough. His eyes burned into mine. I know you're loyal, brave, stronger than you think you are. I know you eat like food might disappear. That you work yourself to exhaustion for people who don't appreciate you. That you sent every spare dollar to your mother even when you could barely afford to eat. I know. His voice cracked. I know I've never wanted anything the way I want you. And I know I'll burn the whole fucking city down before I let anyone take you from me. The intensity of it terrified me. The possessiveness. The obsession. The absolute certainty in his voice. That's not love, I whispered. That's ownership? Obsession? He nodded. Maybe. But it's also protection, devotion, a promise that you'll never be alone, never be hungry, never be invisible again. Isn't that worth something? At what cost? Whatever it takes. I should have run. Should have walked out that door and never looked back. But something in his eyes, something raw and desperate and achingly vulnerable, held me frozen. I need time, I said finally. To think. To figure out what I want. Take all the time you need. He settled back against the pillows, exhaustion and pain catching up with him. But know this, Elena. I'm not giving up on you. On us. I don't care how long it takes. I'll wait. And I'll make sure you're safe while you decide. I don't need your protection. You have it anyway. His eyes were already closing, the conversation draining what little strength he had. Whether you want it or not. I left the hospital in a daze, my mind spinning. Dmitri was waiting by the car, his expression unreadable. Take me home, I said. Boss said to make sure you have everything you need. Food, money, security. I don't want his money. The words came out sharper than intended. I just want to go home. Dmitri studied me for a long moment. He cares about you, miss. More than I've seen him care about anything in 10 years. He has a funny way of showing it. Boss doesn't do things halfway. When he commits to something, someone, it's absolute. Total. Some people find that comforting. Others find it terrifying. He opened the car door. Question is, which one are you? I didn't have an answer. The drive home was silent. When we pulled up to my building, Dmitri handed me a phone. Expensive, new, nothing like my cracked piece of garbage. Boss wanted you to have this. His number's programmed in, so is mine, and a few others. You need anything at all, you call. I can't accept this. You can. You will. His tone left no room for argument. And Miss Elena, the men who came after Boss, they knew things, personal things, like where he goes, who he cares about. His eyes met mine in the rearview mirror. Be careful. Lock your doors. Don't trust strangers. And if you see anything suspicious, you call immediately. Understand? Ice flooded my veins. Are you saying I'm in danger? I'm saying people who want to hurt Boss will look for weak points. And you... He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. I was the weak point, the vulnerability in Alexei's armor. I practically ran into my building, my heart racing. Inside my apartment, I locked every lock, checked every window, then sank onto my bed with the new phone in my trembling hands. One message waited. sent hours ago. I meant what I said. You're mine to protect, whether you accept it or not. Sleep well, Elena. I'll be watching over you. The message should have creeped me out. Should have sent me running to the police. Instead, I clutched the phone to my chest and tried not to think about how safe those words made me feel. How wanted. How seen. How utterly, completely screwed I was. The call came at 3 a.m, 6 days after I'd walked out of that hospital room. I'd been dreaming. Fitful, fractured dreams of Alexi's hands on my skin, of Katya's venomous smile, of shadows with knives closing in. The phone's shrill ring yanked me into wakefulness, my heart already racing before I was fully conscious. Dimitri's name flashed on the screen. Hello? My voice was rough with sleep and fear. Miss Elena, I need you to listen carefully and do exactly what I say. Dimitri's tone was urgent, clipped. Get dressed. Pack a bag, just essentials. You have 5 minutes. Ice flooded my veins. What's happening? Katya's family made a move. They know about you. They're coming. Background noise on his end, shouting, what might have been gunfire. I'm sending someone to get you. His name is Victor. Big guy, scar on his left cheek. Don't open the door for anyone else, do you understand? Dimitri, 5 minutes, Elena, move. He hung up. I moved. My hands shook as I threw clothes into my backpack. Jeans, sweaters, underwear, my mother's photograph. The essentials. My entire life fit into one bag. And wasn't that pathetic? 23 years on this planet, and I could pack everything that mattered in 5 minutes. Pounding on the door made me jump, my heart slamming against my ribs. Elena Morales, a deep voice, accented. I'm Victor. Dimitri sent me. We need to go. Now, I peered through the peephole. A mountain of a man stood in the hallway, a wicked scar bisecting his left cheek. He held up his phone, showing me a text from the number I recognized as Dimitri's. Victor. Trust him. I opened the door. Good girl. Victor's eyes swept over me, assessing. You ready? I don't understand what's happening. Explanation later. Survival now. He grabbed my bag with one hand, my arm with the other, and propelled me toward the stairs. Fire escape. Back way out. Cars waiting in the alley. My neighbors. We'll be fine. You're the target. We burst through the stairwell door, and Victor's phone rang. He answered in Russian, his expression darkening. Then to me. Change of plans. They're already in the building. Front and back covered. Terror clawed up my throat. What do we do? We fight our way out. He pulled a gun from his jacket, and the reality of the situation hit me like a physical blow. This was real. People were coming to hurt me, maybe kill me, because of Alexei. We made it down 2 flights before I heard footsteps below us, voices speaking rapid Russian. Victor swore, pulling me back up and into the 3rd-floor hallway. Apartment 3C, he muttered, checking doors. Fire escape access. Come on. He kicked open the door. An elderly woman's apartment, judging by the floral wallpaper and smell of mothballs. She screamed, and Victor barked something in Russian that made her go silent and point toward the bedroom. Sorry, I gasped as we ran past her. Victor was already at the window, forcing it open, the old frame protesting with a screech of wood and paint. Out, now. He practically threw me onto the fire escape, and I scrambled down the rusted metal, my hands burning on the cold railing. Behind us, I heard shouting, the crash of the apartment door being kicked in, then gunfire. The sound was nothing like movies, sharper, louder, terrifyingly real. I screamed and nearly fell, but Victor was there, his massive body shielding mine as we half climbed, half fell down the fire escape. A black SUV screeched to a halt in the alley below. The door flew open, and I saw Dimitri in the driver's seat, his face grim. Get in! Victor practically threw me into the back seat, diving in after me. Dimitri floored it before the door was even closed, and we fishtailed out of the alley just as more men poured out of my building, guns drawn. Down! Victor shoved my head below the window line as bullets punched through the rear windshield. Glass rained down on us, and I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, could only pray we survived the next 30 seconds. Dimitri took corners at speeds that should have flipped the vehicle, his face set in concentration. More gunfire, the screech of tires, Russian cursing from both men. Then we were on the highway, weaving through sparse early morning traffic, and the shooting stopped. I stayed curled on the floor, shaking so hard my teeth chattered. "It's okay," Victor said, his hand gentle on my shoulder. "You're safe now. We got you." "Safe?" I laughed, the sound bordering on hysterical. "People just shot at us. How is that safe?" "Because you're with us," Dmitri said from the front seat, "and because Boss is going to lose his fucking mind when he finds out what happened. Katya's family just signed their death warrant. Where are we going?" "Safe house. Boss's orders." Dmitri's eyes met mine in the rearview mirror. "He's being released from the hospital today. He'll meet us there." "He's not well enough. Boss doesn't care. You're in danger, so nothing else matters." He said it matter-of-factly, like it was obvious. "Welcome to Alexei Konstantin's world, Miss Elena. It's brutal, it's violent, and once you're in, you don't get out." The safe house was actually a penthouse in a building I'd walked past 100 times but never imagined entering. The lobby was all marble and gold. The elevator required a key card, and by the time we reached the top floor, I'd counted at least 6 security cameras. The penthouse itself was stunning. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, modern furniture that probably cost more than my annual salary, a kitchen bigger than my entire apartment. But I barely registered any of it, too numb with shock and fear. "Bathroom's down the hall," Victor said gently. "There's clothes in the bedroom. Should be something that fits. Get cleaned up. Boss will be here soon." I nodded mechanically and stumbled toward the bathroom. In the mirror, I looked like a disaster. Hair wild, face pale, eyes too large in my face. Glass glittered in my hair from the shattered windshield. My hands were scraped and bleeding from the fire escape. The shower was large enough for 3 people, with water pressure that felt like heaven against my aching muscles. I stood under the spray until the water ran cold, trying to wash away the fear, the adrenaline, the terrible realization that my life had just irrevocably changed. When I emerged, wrapped in a towel that was softer than anything I'd ever owned, I found clothes laid out on the bed. Designer jeans in my size, a cashmere sweater in deep blue, underwear still in the package. Everything fit perfectly. He'd planned this. Alexei had prepared for the possibility that I'd need to be here, had bought clothes in my size, had made sure his safe house could accommodate me. The thought should have angered me. Instead, I felt something warm and terrifying unfurl in my chest. I was toweling my hair when I heard voices in the living room, Dmitri's low rumble, another voice I didn't recognize, and then, "Where is she?" "Alexei." And he sounded furious. I emerged from the bedroom to find him standing in the living room, still pale from his hospital stay but radiating violence like heat. His eyes found me immediately, and something in them made my breath catch. Relief, rage, possessiveness, fear. He crossed the room in 3 strides and pulled me into his arms, careful of his still healing ribs, but firm enough that I felt surrounded, protected, owned. "You're okay," he breathed into my hair. "Thank God." When Dmitri called, when he said they'd found you, his arms tightened. "I'm going to kill them all. Every single one of them. They touched what's mine. Alexei." "I can't breathe," I said, not entirely complaining. He loosened his grip but didn't release me, his hands coming up to frame my face, tilting it so I had no choice but to meet his eyes. "Are you hurt? Did they touch you?" "No, Victor and Dmitri got me out before." My voice broke, the reality of how close I'd come to something terrible finally hitting me. "They shot at us. The bullets. They came through the window." "Shh." He kissed my forehead, my cheeks, my nose, butterfly soft touches that contrasted sharply with the violence simmering beneath his skin. "You're safe. I've got you. No one will hurt you again." "You can't promise that. Watch me." He looked over my shoulder at Dmitri. "Status?" "Katya's father authorized the hit. She convinced him you'd gone soft, that the girl was a weakness they could exploit." Dmitri's expression was grim. They weren't trying to kill her. They were trying to take her, use her as leverage. Alexei went very still, the kind of stillness that preceded violence. "And now?" 15 men mobilized, 3 wounded, 1 dead. Victor got him on the fire escape. The others scattered when we made it to the vehicle. Dmitri hesitated. "Boss?" "They had inside information. Knew which apartment, which floor. Someone talked. Find them. Alexei's voice was ice. Find them, and bring them to me. I want to look them in the eyes before I end them. Already on it. And Katya's family? Waiting for your move. Alexei's smile was terrifying. Tell them we're having a meeting. Tonight. All the families. Time to remind them why they fear the Constantine name. His arms tightened around me again. And Elena comes with me. No. The word burst out before I could stop it. No, Alexei. I'm not going to some Mafia meeting. You don't have a choice. He said it gently but firmly. Katya's family made their move because they thought you were a secret, a weakness hidden in shadows. But secrets can be exploited, so we're going to make you visible, untouchable, mine in a way no one can dispute. What does that mean? He looked at me for a long moment, something shifting in his expression. Then he turned to Dmitri and Victor. Give us the room. They left without argument, and suddenly we were alone in this too large space, the city sprawling beneath us. The morning sun painting everything in shades of gold and shadow. Marry me, Alexei said. I stared at him, certain I'd misheard. What? Marry me. Today, now. He took my hands, his thumbs tracing my knuckles. In our world, a girlfriend is a vulnerability, a weakness. But a wife? A wife is untouchable, sacred. Attack a man's wife. And you've declared war not just on him, but on every code we live by. You're insane. I tried to pull my hands away, but he held firm. We barely know each other. You can't expect me to... I expect nothing. I'm asking. He dropped to one knee, and the gesture was so unexpected, so incongruous with everything I knew about him, that I forgot how to breathe. I know I'm not a good man. I know I've brought nothing but danger into your life. I know you should run as far from me as possible. His eyes met mine, and I saw something raw there, something vulnerable. But I also know I'll never feel about anyone the way I feel about you. And I know that if I let you go, if I send you back to your life, they'll keep coming. They'll hurt you to get to me, and I can't... His voice cracked. I can't survive that, Elena. I can't survive the thought of you in danger because of me. So I marry you and what? Become a target for life? You become protected for life. Feared. No one touches you without answering to me and every ally I have. He squeezed my hands. I'm not asking for love. Not yet. I'm asking for trust. For time. For a chance to keep you safe while you figure out if what you feel for me is worth the danger. And if I say no, pain flashed across his face, then I put you on a plane to somewhere they'll never find you. New identity. New life. Enough money to start over. And I go to war with Katya's family knowing I've already lost the only thing that mattered. The choice he was offering wasn't really a choice at all. Stay and marry him, or run and spend the rest of my life looking over my shoulder, wondering if Katya's family would ever stop looking for me. But there was a third option he wasn't saying. Stay and marry him because some part of me, the part that had kissed him back in that car, that had rushed to his hospital bedside, that felt safe in his arms despite the danger, wanted to. This is crazy, I whispered. I know, we've known each other less than 2 weeks. I know. You're a criminal. You've killed people. I know. He stood, still holding my hands, bringing them to his lips. But I'm also the man who will burn the world down to keep you safe. The man who sees you, really sees you, when everyone else looks through you like you're invisible. The man who wants to give you everything you've ever been denied. He kissed my knuckles, his eyes never leaving mine. Marry me, Elena. Let me protect you. And if you decide you can't live in my world, if you want out, I'll let you go. But at least give me the chance to prove I'm worth staying for. And I thought about my apartment with its water-stained ceiling and broken dreams. About serving people who didn't see me, working myself to exhaustion for tips that barely covered rent. About my mother in Ohio, alone, still struggling with medical debt. I thought about the past 6 days, unable to eat or sleep, checking my phone obsessively for messages from a man I barely knew but couldn't stop thinking about. I thought about the way he looked at me, like I was precious, important, seen. Okay, I heard myself say. I'll marry you. The smile that broke across his face was stunning in its genuine joy. He pulled me close, kissing me with a desperation that spoke of relief and hunger, and promises I wasn't sure he could keep, but God help me. I wanted to believe he could. "We'll do it right," he murmured against my lips. Not some courthouse quickie, a real wedding. Small, just us and witnesses, but real. You'll have a dress, flowers, everything you deserve. Alexei, let me give this to you, Elena. Let me do this one thing right. His hands tangled in my damp hair. And tonight, when I walk into that meeting with you on my arm, wearing my ring, they'll understand. You're not just mine. You're a Constantine. And anyone who touches a Constantine dies screaming. The possessiveness in his voice should have terrified me. Instead, it made me feel like maybe, for the first time in my life, I belonged somewhere, to someone. Even if that someone was a monster. 4 hours later, I stood in a boutique I'd never be able to afford, staring at my reflection in a floor-length mirror. The dress was simple. White silk that skimmed my curves, with delicate lace at the shoulders, and a train that pooled at my feet. My hair had been styled by a woman who appeared within minutes of Alexei making a phone call, swept up into an elegant twist with small white flowers woven through. Makeup that made my eyes look luminous, my lips full and soft. I looked like a bride. I felt like I was playing dress-up in someone else's life. Beautiful. Alexei breathed from behind me. I met his eyes in the mirror and saw hunger there, possession, and something softer. Elena, you're absolutely beautiful. I feel like a fraud. Why? He came to stand behind me, his hands resting on my waist, his chin on my shoulder as we both studied my reflection. You're about to become my wife. That's real. Is it? This whole day feels like a dream, a fever dream where I make insane decisions because men with guns are chasing me. His arms tightened around me. No one will chase you after today. I promise you that. The judge arrived at 5, a thin man who looked nervous, probably because Dmitri and 3 other guards stood watching him with expressions that promised violence if anything went wrong. Victor handed us the license we'd somehow acquired in record time. Money and power opening doors that should have stayed closed. We stood in the penthouse living room, the city lights beginning to twinkle as dusk fell. And I listened to words I'd never thought I'd hear directed at me. Do you, Alexei Mikhailovich Konstantin, take Elena Maria Morales to be your lawfully wedded wife? I do. His voice was steady, certain. And do you, Elena Maria Morales, take Alexei Mikhailovich Konstantin to be your lawfully wedded husband? I looked at him. This beautiful, dangerous man who'd walked into my life less than 2 weeks ago and turned it upside down, who'd kissed me like I mattered, protected me like I was precious, claimed me like I was his entire world. I do, I whispered. The ring he slipped onto my finger was stunning, a diamond so large it should have been obscene, surrounded by smaller stones that caught the light like captured stars. It weighed heavy on my hand, a constant reminder of what I'd just become. I now pronounce you husband and wife. The judge snapped his book shut, clearly eager to leave. You may kiss the bride. Alexei cupped my face with both hands, his thumbs brushing away tears I hadn't realized were falling. Mine, he murmured, so softly only I could hear. Forever mine. Then he kissed me, and it felt like sealing a deal with the devil, dangerous and intoxicating, and absolutely irreversible. When he pulled back, his men were clapping, Dmitri was grinning, and I was officially Elena Konstantin, married to a monster. Ready for tonight? Alexei asked, straightening my dress. No. Good answer. He kissed my forehead. But you'll be magnificent anyway. Trust me. As we left for the meeting that would announce my new status to the criminal underworld, I caught my reflection in the window. A bride in white, standing beside a man in black, both of us backlit by the dying sun. We looked like a fairy tale. I just hoped it wouldn't turn into a nightmare. Block 5. The meeting was held in a warehouse on the outskirts of the city, the kind of place that looked abandoned from the outside, but hummed with lethal energy within. As our convoy of 3 black SUVs pulled up, I could see other vehicles already parked. Expensive cars that spoke of wealth and power, all arranged in a careful hierarchy I didn't understand but could feel. My hands twisted in the silk of my wedding dress. Alexei had insisted I wear it, had insisted I walk into this meeting looking exactly like what I was. His bride, claimed and protected. "Breathe," he murmured, his hand covering mine. "They can smell fear. Don't give them the satisfaction. I'm terrified." "Good. Terror keeps you sharp." He lifted my hand to his lips, kissing the ring that marked me as his. "But remember, you're not just Elena anymore. You're Elena Constantine, my wife. And anyone who disrespects you disrespects me. That's a death sentence." Dmitri opened the door, and Alexei stepped out first, then extended his hand to help me out. The moment my heels touched the pavement, I felt eyes on me. Assessments being made, weaknesses being catalogued, threats being calculated. I lifted my chin and took Alexei's arm, letting him lead me toward the warehouse entrance. Inside, the space had been transformed. A large table dominated the center, surrounded by chairs where men in expensive suits sat, flanked by their own guards. Everyone turned as we entered, and the silence was deafening. Alexei's hand tightened on mine as we walked toward two empty chairs at the head of the table. His message was clear. This was his meeting, his territory, his rules. And I was his queen. Katya sat 3 chairs down, her face a mask of barely contained rage. Beside her, an older man who must have been her father watched me with eyes like chips of ice. Other faces I didn't recognize, all hard, all dangerous, all studying me like I was a puzzle to solve or a problem to eliminate. "Gentlemen," Alexei said, his voice cutting through the silence, "and Katya, thank you for coming on such short notice." He pulled out my chair, waiting until I sat before taking his own seat. "I'm sure you're wondering why I called this meeting." "We heard rumors," Katya's father said, his accent thick. "Impossible rumors that you married some nobody waitress instead of honoring your arrangement with my daughter. Not rumors, facts." Alexei's smile was sharp as a blade. "May I present my wife, Elena Constantine. We were married this afternoon." The explosion of voices was immediate. Shouting in Russian and English, accusations flying, Katya's father rising from his seat with murder in his eyes. "You dare," he started. "Sit down." Alexei didn't raise his voice, but something in it made every man in the room freeze. "You want to talk about daring? Let's talk about your men attacking my wife this morning. Let's talk about attempting to kidnap her, to use her as leverage against me. Let's talk about the 3 bullets that came through the windshield of my vehicle while she cowered on the floor, terrified for her life. She's nobody," Katya spat. "A poor little slut who spread her legs." Alexei moved so fast I barely saw it. One moment he was seated beside me, the next he had Katya by the throat, lifting her from her chair, slamming her against the wall. His guards materialized behind him, guns drawn, while Katya's father's men did the same, creating a standoff that could turn bloody in seconds. "Say another word about my wife," Alexei said softly, his hand tightening around Katya's throat, "and I'll make you watch while I dismantle your family piece by piece, starting with your father, Alexei." I stood on shaking legs, my voice somehow steady despite my racing heart. "Let her go." He didn't move, didn't look at me, his eyes locked on Katya's terrified face. "Please," I added, moving closer. "She's not worth it." Something in my voice reached him. He released Katya, letting her drop to the floor in a heap of expensive fabric and wounded pride. But his eyes never left her father. "Here's how this is going to work," Alexei said, returning to his seat beside me, his hand finding mine under the table. "The arrangement between our families is over. Done. Elena is my wife, and that makes her untouchable. Anyone who harms her, threatens her, or even looks at her wrong answers to me. And you all know what that means. The council won't stand for this," another man said. "You can't just discard agreements." "I am. And if the council has a problem with it, they can take it up with me directly." Alexei leaned back, radiating casual menace. "Or would you like to test me on this? See if I'm bluffing?" Silence. No one wanted to test Alexei Constantine. "As for this morning's attack," Alexei continued, his tone conversational, "I've identified the men involved. They're being dealt with as we speak. But I'm a reasonable man, so I'll give you a choice, Yuri. He addressed Katya's father directly. You can acknowledge that the attack was unauthorized, a rogue operation by your daughter's overzealous supporters, publicly apologize, pay reparations, and we move forward with peace between our families. Or, Yuri's jaw was clenched so tight I could see the muscles jumping. Or, we go to war, and I promise you, you'll lose. Your territories, your businesses, your daughter, everything you've built will burn. Alexei's smile was cold. Your choice. But decide quickly. My patience is running thin. The calculation in Yuri's eyes was obvious. He was weighing options, considering angles, trying to find a way to save face while avoiding annihilation. Finally, he spoke. The attack was unauthorized. My daughter acted without my knowledge or consent. He shot Katya a look that promised consequences. I apologize for the threat to your wife. It won't happen again. And the reparations? Name your price. 3 territories. Your waterfront holdings. And your word that Katya will leave the city. Permanently. You can't... Katya started, but her father's raised hand silenced her. Agreed, Yuri said, each word seeming to cost him. But know this, Konstantin, you've made an enemy today. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but someday this will come back to haunt you. I'll look forward to it. Alexei stood, pulling me up with him. Gentlemen, we're done here. My wife and I have a wedding to celebrate. As we walked out, every eye in the room followed us. I could feel the weight of their stares, the calculations being made, the promises of future revenge, but Alexei's hand was steady on my back, his presence a wall between me and any threat. Outside in the cool night air, I finally allowed myself to breathe. You okay? Alexei asked, helping me into the SUV. I don't know. I looked at him, my husband of less than 8 hours, who'd just threatened war to protect me. Did that really just happen? Did you just restructure your entire criminal organization because of me? Yes. Why? He cupped my face, his eyes intense in the dim light. Because you're mine. Because I meant every word I said in there. Because I'd burn the whole city down before I let anyone hurt you. His thumb brushed my lower lip. Still think this is crazy? Completely insane. I leaned into his touch despite myself. But I'm starting to think maybe I am too. Because part of me liked watching you defend me like that. Liked being claimed so publicly. I stopped, unsure how to finish. Liked being mine? He supplied, his voice rough. Yes, I whispered. God help me, yes. He kissed me then, deep and claiming, and I tasted possession and promises, and something that might have been the beginning of love, or the end of my sanity. When he pulled back, we were both breathing hard. Take me home, I said. Our home, wherever that is now. The penthouse. I've already had your things moved from that apartment. He saw my expression and added, what few things there were. I want you to have more, Elena, everything, anything you want. I just want to feel safe, then that's what I'll give you. He pulled me against his side as the SUV pulled away from the warehouse. Starting tonight. The penthouse felt different now, less like a safe house and more like home. Alexei carried me over the threshold despite my protests, setting me down gently in the living room. Tradition, he explained at my questioning look. We may have done everything backward and insane, but some things should be done right. And what happens now? I asked, suddenly nervous. We were married, alone, and I had no idea what he expected from me. Now? He shrugged off his jacket, loosening his tie. Now you tell me what you need. Rest, food, space, answers. I kicked off the heels that had been torturing me all day. Real answers, Alexei, about what you do, about what being your wife really means, about what happens next. He studied me for a long moment, then nodded. Come sit with me. We settled on the couch, and he pulled me against his side, his arm around my shoulders. And then he told me everything about the Bratva, the Russian organized crime network he'd been born into, his father a mid-level enforcer who died when Alexei was 12, about coming to America at 16 to escape a power struggle, starting from nothing, building an empire through ruthlessness and strategic brilliance, about the territories he controlled, the businesses, legitimate and otherwise, that formed his empire, about the code he lived by, the enemies he'd made, the blood on his hands. He didn't sugarcoat it, didn't try to make himself seem better than he was. He laid it all out, and I listened, my heart breaking and swelling in equal measure. "I've killed 17 men," he said quietly. "All of them threats to my organization or my people. I don't enjoy it, but I don't lose sleep over it either." His arm tightened around me. "Does that change things? Knowing what I've done?" "I don't know," I admitted. "Yesterday it might have. But after this morning, after seeing what your world is really like, I think I understand better. You do what you have to do to survive, to protect what's yours. And you're mine now." "Yes." The word felt right, despite everything. "I am." He tilted my face up, searching my eyes. "I won't lie to you, Elena. My world is dangerous. There will always be people who want to hurt me through you. But I swear on everything I am, I will protect you. Always. No matter what it costs. Even if it costs your empire. Even then." He said it without hesitation. "You're worth more than all of it. You barely know me. I know enough. I know you're loyal. You worked yourself to exhaustion for a mother you love. I know you're strong. You survived in this city when it would have been easier to give up. I know you're brave. You married me despite every logical reason to run. And I know..." His voice dropped lower, more intimate. "I know you kiss me back like you're drowning and I'm air. That's enough for me." He kissed me again, slower this time, and I felt myself melting into it. His hands roamed over the silk of my dress, and when they found the zipper, he paused. "Tell me to stop," he murmured against my lips. "Tell me you're not ready, and I'll wait. Forever if I have to." But I didn't want him to stop. I wanted this, wanted him, with a desperation that terrified me. I'd married him, bound my life to his, put myself in danger for him. I might as well complete the transformation. "Don't stop," I whispered. "Please, Alexei. I need you to make this real." The growl that escaped him was pure possession. He stood, lifting me with him, carrying me to the bedroom. He laid me on the bed like I was something precious, then followed me down, his body covering mine. "Mine," he breathed, trailing kisses down my throat. "Say it, Elena. Say you're mine." "I'm yours," I gasped as his hands found skin. "Yours, Alexei. Only yours." He made love to me with a gentleness that contrasted sharply with his violent nature, taking his time, mapping every inch of my skin like he was memorizing it. When he finally claimed me completely, I felt the last walls I'd built around my heart crumble. This was insane, dangerous, everything I'd been taught to avoid. But wrapped in his arms, his ring on my finger, his name now mine, I couldn't bring myself to regret it. 3 months later, I woke to sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows and Alexei's arm heavy across my waist. 3 months married, and I still wasn't used to this, the luxury, the safety, the feeling of being cherished. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. "The doctors say I'm in complete remission. Thank you, sweetheart. I don't know how you afforded the treatment, but thank you." Tears stung my eyes. Alexei had paid for it all, the experimental treatment, the best doctors, a nurse to stay with her, and refused to let me thank him. "She's family now," he'd said simply. "I take care of family. Good news?" Alexei's sleep-rough voice came from behind me. "Mom's cancer-free." I turned to face him, this beautiful monster who'd become my entire world. "Thank you. For everything. Anything for you." He kissed my forehead. "Speaking of which, I have something to show you." 20 minutes later, we stood outside a small cafe, closed for renovations according to the sign. Alexei handed me a key. "What's this?" I asked. "Yours, if you want it." He gestured to the space. "I know you hate feeling useless. Hate being just the wife. So this is yours, to run however you want. A cafe, a bookstore, whatever makes you happy. Fully funded, completely legitimate. Your name on the deed." I stared at him, overwhelmed. "You bought me a building?" "I bought you a future. Options. Independence within safety. He pulled me close. I know I'm possessive, Elena. I know I can be overwhelming, but I never want you to feel trapped. So this is freedom, if you want it. I love you, I said. The words I'd been holding back for weeks finally spilling out. I know it's crazy. I know it's fast. But I love you, Alexei. His smile could have powered the entire city. Say it again. I love you. Again. I love you. You possessive, dangerous, impossible man. He kissed me there on the street, not caring who saw, claiming me as thoroughly as he had that first night. When he pulled back, his eyes were suspiciously bright. I love you too, he said roughly. From the moment you dropped that ice and looked at me with those frightened eyes, I was yours completely, irrevocably, forever. Even though I provoked you, his laugh was pure joy, especially because you provoked me. You still do. Every single day. He rested his forehead against mine. Thank you, Elena Constantine, for taking a chance on a monster. For seeing past the violence to the man underneath. For making me believe I could be more than what I was born to be. You're not a monster, I said firmly. You're just a man who'll do anything to protect what he loves. And I'm a woman who loves him anyway, maybe even because of it. We stood there in the morning sunlight, wrapped in each other, and I realized something profound. I'd spent my whole life invisible, struggling to survive, dreaming of being seen. And then a dangerous man had walked into a restaurant on a rainy night, and everything had changed. He'd claimed me, protected me, loved me with an intensity that should have terrified me, but instead made me feel alive for the first time. My life wasn't safe anymore. Wasn't simple. Wasn't anything I'd planned. But wrapped in Alexei's arms, his ring on my finger, his love surrounding me like armor, I realized I wouldn't change a single moment. Not the fear, not the danger, not even that first terrifying night when bullets had shattered glass and my old life had died, because that night had also been when my new life had begun, with him. My monster, my protector, my husband, my Alexei. Come on, he said, tugging me toward the car where Dmitri waited with his ever-present scowl and hidden smile. I'm taking my wife to breakfast, somewhere Rosa can fuss over us and threaten to break my legs. Your wife would like that very much, I said, lacing my fingers through his. And as we drove through the city that had once seemed so cold and unforgiving, I looked at the man beside me, the Mafia boss who'd claimed a waitress, the monster who'd become my salvation, and smiled. This was my life now. Dangerous, unpredictable, and absolutely perfect, and I wouldn't have it any other way.